Good evening, everybody. I would like to call the City Council, City of West Hollywood meeting of Monday, November 19th, 2018 to order. I'd like to ask Duke Mason to come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Duke. Ms. City Clerk, may we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Councilmember Heilman?
Here.
Councilmember Horvath?
Here.
Councilmember Meister?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem D'Amico is absent tonight, and Mayor Duran.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. The Mayor Pro Tem is in Hawaii for his Thanksgiving holidays with family. We will miss him tonight. Let's start with approval of tonight's agenda. Staff, any proposed changes to the agenda tonight?
No.
Actually, we were going to table item 2J and bring that back at a later meeting.
All right, there's a request to table item 2J, the Aging in Place, Aging in Community 2-year evaluation report. Without objection, we will table that to a date uncertain. Councilmember Horvath, any changes to the agenda?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to add items 4A and 5C to the consent agenda.
All right, item 4A is the parking meter grace period, 5 minutes on all parking meters year-round. Any objection to that?
I was just wondering if 5C has any speakers? No speakers?
All right, so we'll move 4A without objection to consent, and the second request is 5C, which is the cannabis tax materials. No speakers, no objection. We will move that one to consent as well.
And I'd also like to pull item 2I for quick discussion. I reviewed with staff and want to give some direction that requires council approval. It will be quick.
Okay, 2I is the public infrastructure improvement update. We will pull that for possible further discussion. Colleagues, I wonder if you'll indulge me on item 5A, which is the referendum challenging the approval of the Arts Club. I would like to suggest that we add that to consent with recommendation number 2, namely that we submit the issue to the voters at the March 5th, 2019 election. Any objection moving that to consent?
No.
Councilmember Heilman?
Do we have speakers on that item?
We do. We have 10.
Okay, I'm okay with moving it to consent, provided that we have the option of taking it off of consent after we hear the public comment.
All right. So we will hear the speakers, but there's a proposal to add 5A to consent with recommendation number 2, that we submit this to a vote of the people. All right, with those proposed changes, a motion to approve. Yes, Councilmember Hyman, I'm sorry.
Yes, that's okay. I'm down here.
I forgot. There's missing D'Amico here. So.
That's okay. Item 2K, I would like to pull that from consent.
Okay, that's the reappointment of your Arts and Cultural Affairs Commission.
Yes, and I also have some comments on 2N. I'm okay with leaving that on the consent calendar, but I just want to note that I will be making some comments on that at council member comments.
All right, that's 2N is in Nancy, the
Yes.
agreement with American GTS. Okay. All right, a motion to approve the agenda as amended would be in order. Moved by Heilman, seconded by Meister. All in favor of the agenda as amended, please indicate with an aye. The matter passes 4-0 unanimously. The agenda is approved. We will now go to adjournment motions. Let me start here on my right. Councilmember Meister, any adjournment motions?
Yes. Yes, I'd like to adjourn in memory of Pat Rocco. Pat Rocco was a pioneering activist and filmmaker. He produced short-form gay erotica in the 1960s that was widely embraced by the gay community and received positive reviews from the mainstream press, including Variety, Los Angeles Times, and Playboy magazine. In the late 1960s through 1980s, Rocco shot historically important footage of LGBT demonstrations, parades, marches, festivals, and events. He's known as one of the co-organizers of the first LA Pride Parade in 1970. He was a driving force behind the idea for the first multi-day Christopher Street West Pride Festival in 1974. He was also active in the Democratic Party, fighting to bring equal recognition to the lives of LGBTQ people. He also served on the boards of a number of LGBT organizations. Rocco never stopped working for LGBTQ rights and campaigning for progressive candidates. He will be remembered for documenting the LGBTQ movement and providing some of the only existing moving images of the major beginnings of the gay rights movement in the United States. And when I was mayor back in 2016, Pat called me to discuss LA Pride. His interest and his passion in Pride and the city was unwavering. Thank you.
Thank you. Without objection, we will do so. Councilmember Horvath?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to adjourn tonight in memory of Larry Norman Frost, who was recently identified as one of the 3 previously unidentified victims of the Upstairs Lounge arson fire. For those who aren't familiar with this piece of history, the Upstairs Lounge was a popular gay bar in the French Quarter in New Orleans. And on June 24th, 1973, an arsonist set fire to the bar, killing 32 people. That was the deadliest mass murder of gay people in the United States until the Pulse shooting in Orlando in 2016. Up until now, there were 3 people who were referred to as unidentified white male on many memorials and plaques for these victims. Larry's name can now be recognized with the other identified victims, and Larry was described by his family as a soft-spoken, gentle person. He was a fun, goofy brother and a free spirit. And we have no military deaths to report, gratefully, since our last meeting. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Without objection, we will do so. Councilmember Heilman?
Yes, I'd request that we adjourn in memory of James Litz's sister, Kathy. I learned over the weekend that she passed away recently. I'd also request that we adjourn in memory of Frances Taylor Davis. Frances Davis was an icon here in the city of West Hollywood. She was the first wife of famed trumpeter Miles Davis. From an early age, Frances trained in dance. She became the first African American to dance with the Paris Opera Ballet. She was known in West Hollywood as the hostess of Hamburger Hamlet, the Sunset Boulevard gathering up for celebrities such as Betty Davis, Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin. She was also the hostess of the famed Roy's restaurant, where she became known as the Diva. We were able to celebrate Frances. She was our first artist and icon in our series, and she is going to be missed greatly in this community.
Without objection, we will do so. Thank you. All right, those are our adjournment motions. I join my colleagues in all the names that they've already mentioned. We'll now move to presentations. I think the first presentation is Councilmember Horvath.
Mayor, I was under the impression you were leading this, but I think all of our community would like to adjourn in memory also of the victims of the recent fires in California.
Okay.
So I think if we could also add that to the adjournment motions.
Yes, of course, without objection.
So our first presentation tonight, on a different note, some very good news. I learned recently, and I would welcome up the board directors of Handle with Care, to whom we're presenting tonight: Kellen Martz, Tyler Gutowski, John Santos, Ted Morales, and Matthew Fritsch. It is the Thanksgiving season, and we have so much to be grateful for, especially in light of the recent tragedies that have taken place. And I recently learned of the good work of this emerging organization in our community, Handle with Care, which is a West Hollywood-based nonprofit founded in January 2018 by a concerned group of friends who noticed an increase in the homeless population on the streets of West Hollywood and Greater Los Angeles. Since its founding, the organization has provided approximately 500 care packages to homeless individuals in our local community and around West Hollywood, in neighboring areas to West Hollywood, containing fresh food, personal supplies, and resource guides with addresses and phone numbers for social service agencies, food banks, and job assistance. Handle with Care has grown its volunteer base and introduced upwards of 30 people to volunteering that had never been actively involved before. This organization hopes to increase the number of people they are able to help on a monthly basis, grow their volunteer base, partner with individuals and companies who share their goals to further advance their efforts, and continue to have fun while giving back to the community. So we would like to commend you for your great work. I think so many of us have the same questions that sparked your initial activism. What can I do to help? What more can we do, and how can we address this issue? And with open hearts and open arms, you have done so. And I think it's commendable, especially at this time of year, to thank you for all of the work that you're doing and the ways that you've stepped up to be so generous in your spirit. So we thank you for the work you've done to support West Hollywood community members, and we wish you success as you continue to expand and increase the number of individuals you serve. I'll ask my colleagues to join me.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Now I have a presentation I'd like to make, because we're going to have a transition happening at the corner of Santa Monica Boulevard and Robertson. Santa Monica Boulevard and Robertson, an infamous corner in the city of West Hollywood, and also the home of Hamburger Haven. I'm going to make a presentation tonight to Jake and Fruzanne Raphael. They've been operating the Hamburger Haven for 38 years at the corner of Santa Monica Boulevard and Robertson, a favorite for many people stumbling out of the Abbey at 2 in the morning. Jake is, of course, known for his telling of jokes and orders on paper plates, and you get a little card when you place your order, the 2 of diamonds or something. And it's been a long-time community restaurant that some of the employees have been working there for 20 or 30 years with the Raphaels. So we are going to recognize and celebrate Hamburger Haven tonight. I believe that Jake and Fruzanne have decided to somewhat retire, and we would like to just take a moment to recognize them as members of the West Hollywood family, to thank them for the jokes and the fun and, of course, the great burgers at Hamburger Haven all these decades, and we wish you well with future success. So, Jake and Fruzanne, are you here? Yes, you're here. There you are. All right, please come on up. Colleagues, would you please join me?
We're going down.
And thank you, David Cooley, for bringing them to our attention so we could celebrate them. Thank you, David. Okay, that concludes our presentations for the evening. We will now move to public comment. City values your comments, however, pursuant to the Brown Act. Council may not comment on the items that you are speaking on unless they've been properly agendized this evening. Each speaker will have up to 2 minutes to address the council on any topic that they wish. We will start with those matters that are either on the consent calendar or have been moved to the consent calendar. And if you would please come to the microphone and state your name and your city of residence. Let's start with Eric John Schmidt, to be followed by Felice Kaplan.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Eric John Schmidt, a longtime resident. First, I'd like to compliment the city for the desert landscaping and the medium. Looks very nice, and it's environmentally responsible. I'm also delighted to hear that there's another candidate throwing her hat in the ring, a woman, a lesbian, and an African American. I'm glad we'll have more diversity. But getting to 5B, I agree with recommendation 2 that the city clerk should standardize the way in which commissioners receive information, and there should be information on the website. But I also believe that code violations from tenants regarding their landlord should be on the website, and the action taken by that department should be on the website too, in a timely manner. With the Q Press, what I don't understand is why do you want to increase the budget 4 times from $54,000 to $229,000? I mean, how much more money could they need to do the same thing? Again, with there's another one here, is $4,300 to $124,000. It's $120,000 more for the World AIDS Day. I just don't understand why we're spending all this money. I mean, I think the city should be looking for ways to save money rather than just spending it like drunken sailors. I mean, is there any reason? I'd like the city to somehow respond to that, find out why we're spending so much money when we're not spending money in areas where it's needed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Felice Kaplan, to be followed by Sam Foreman, followed by Danielle Wilson.
I told them I didn't want to be first, so they made me second. How nice. Hi, Mr. Heilman. Okay, so I'm very delighted that the Arts Building is going to be built on Sunset Boulevard. Someone came to my door and misled me. They made it seem as though I was signing something for the Arts Building, but then it turned out it was against it. So I wrote a little poem to express myself about 7 weeks ago, but I couldn't make it. I had to work. Last week, I now found out I was deceived by a person I had truly believed, who came to my apartment door asking for my signature and nothing more. So I agreed and decided to sign, and of course thought everything was fine. It was in favor of the beautiful arts building that's going to be built, but it turns out that they had lied and should live with shame and guilt, because that wasn't the case at all. And a few days later, someone had given me a call, making me aware that some people are misleading others and will lie to get what they want and just don't care. So I called back the nice guy who called and warned me about this, but it was too late, I told him, because I had already signed, but he was so decent and kind. So a few hours later, he came to my door, and I signed a paper or two, and now my signature doesn't count anymore. I now only hope they will start building the amazing place very soon. Wouldn't that be great? Just like the thousands of others too. We really just can't wait. Thank you.
Thank you. Sam Foreman, Danielle Wilson, Elle Farmer.
Hello, I want to talk about not building that building. I used to live in West Hollywood. When I moved here, I found what was called a fair deal on my apartment. It cost about $1,700 a month for a studio. This was, without question, one of the least expensive apartments in the area, despite costing only $600 more than the average working person earns in the county of Los Angeles. This speaks to a level of inequality that the city of West Hollywood not only seeks to maintain, but to advance. While I canvassed with Unite Here, Local 11, I spoke with neighbors who live across the street from my old building. These weren't people I knew beforehand, but I did learn a great deal from speaking with them. One person told me that he was paying $2,100 a month for a place that was much smaller than my old one, in much worse shape, and from what he told me, is largely ignored by his landlord. He described the conditions of his building as being akin to a slum, and agreed his rent is too high, but within the realm of fair for the neighborhood. During the nearly 2 years when I lived in West Hollywood, I noticed a rapid change in culture in the hyper-local area that I was living. Restaurants like a wine bar I'd always enjoyed walking to had to close. It was a bastion of the community. A bastion of arts and comedy culture, Meltdown Comics, was forced to close. These were stalwarts of the nearby community and huge reasons why I initially wanted to live in the area, and they could no longer afford to keep the lights on because of increased rents. I understand the entire strip mall where Meltdown Comics is being torn down is doing so in favor of a grocery store, while another supermarket already exists about a third of a mile away. Is this what we need, or do we need to address the 53,000 homeless people, or in the fact that over 65% of Angelenos rent their property and are continuing to be squeezed on what they can afford, and in many cases, forced to relocate like I was? And again, my rent was fair for that area. So when we discuss our reasons for why the radical rezoning for the Arts Club project was not welcome here,
Your time has expired.
it's worth, I just want to finish up.
No, your time has expired, sir. Please be seated. Danielle Wilson, Al Farmer, Riley O'Brien.
Good evening, Mayor Duran, council members, and staff. My name is Danielle Wilson, and I'm here on behalf of Unite Here Local 11, the hotel workers union that represents over 30,000 members across the region in Phoenix, Arizona. On September 4th, you granted several zoning changes to develop the Luxury Arts Club project. Included in this extensive list of special land use privileges was the decision to amend the general plan land use map to include the southern portion of the proposed project site in the Sunset Specific Plan. This was effectively a decision to radically rezone a more than 20,000 square foot site, dramatically changing the character of the area by further privatizing the Sunset Strip and privileging luxury development over the desperate need in our city for affordable housing. After this decision was made, despite our objections, we decided such a radical rezoning should go before the voters. We stand before you now, having collected 2,831 valid signatures from your constituents, all of whom signed on to petitions to oppose this decision to amend the general plan land use map. Many of the people who signed this petition did so out of self-preservation. They know that rezoning our city to make way for an exclusive, internationally based luxury club charging its members exorbitant fees to join signals the onset of many more developments of its kind. As a new West Hollywood resident myself, it concerns me that I am now part of a community that is represented by leaders who prioritize private luxury development over the real needs of community, which is housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Al Farmer, Riley O'Brien, Roxy Aslan.
Good evening, council members. You know I am Al Farmer. I've spoken to you many times before. I would like to note, just for the record, the strangeness of bringing this item 5A onto the consent calendar and then doing all of the speakers. I don't quite understand what the purpose of that is. Hopefully someone can explain that at some point. Danielle just mentioned Arizona. So 12 days ago, I just got back from being there for a month to help with Unite Here's efforts in electing the first woman senator in Arizona and the first openly bisexual senator anywhere in the country. And nothing feels quite like how it feels to work day by day, every hour of the day, alongside my union siblings and progressive people from all walks of life to win tangible gains for working class LGBT people in an otherwise extremely conservative environment. I learned about the success of signature gathering in between knocking on doors in North Phoenix, and I knew democracy would win out. The people would have their say, just like they were in the process of having their say in Arizona. This council in September faced a choice to stick with rich corporate developers or to do better for their city. Our members in Nevada didn't just drop out of the sky to make that state turn blue. and Arizona didn't start turning blue out of nowhere. It took action, it took labor, it took effort, and we built that effort, we built the ability to do that because the voice and power of working people must be everywhere. People in Nevada and Arizona and California just made some pretty resounding decisions. And now, thanks to tireless Democratic efforts on the ground, people in West Hollywood will have a new decision to make soon, too. Thank you.
Thank you. Riley O'Brien, Roxy Aslan, Max Greenberg.
Good evening, council members. My name is Riley, and I live in West Hollywood. I am deeply troubled by the council's process surrounding the radical rezoning for the proposed Arts Club on Sunset. First and foremost, I am offended that opponents of the Arts Club, such as myself, were referred to as outside interests trying to destroy the Sunset Strip, when in reality, I am one of thousands of residents concerned about the impacts of this playground for the ultra-wealthy. It is incredibly disappointing to witness council members who speak out against Donald Trump and then turn around and use Trump-like tactics by spreading lies about outside interests in our mailboxes, phones, and social media. Secondly, the council's decision to rezone land that was partially zoned residential for the Arts Club is completely unacceptable. California now ranks second to last in per capita housing supply across all 50 states and has a quarter of the nation's homeless population. But people at all income levels are looking for new housing, and those who want to live in WeHo but cannot find vacancies, well, they're moving to other neighborhoods. And they outbid longtime residents, push many of them into homelessness onto our streets. We can break that cycle by ensuring that land set aside for long-term housing remains set aside for long-term housing, instead of giving it away to a developer with no interest in strengthening our community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Roxy Aslan, Max Greenberg, Jorge Saparak.
Hi, my name is Roxana Aslan. I'm a resident of West Hollywood. To anyone who's heard about Nevada now being nearly as blue as California, you're welcome. Our 57,000 members in Nevada and our network in Arizona didn't appear from nowhere. We built it through struggle. That's a simple but important point. Many Democratic politicians love the victories our members deliver in places like Nevada, Arizona, and Orange County, California, but then denigrate those workers when they have the opportunity to do so from their positions of power. Some Democrats engage in despicable anti-union rhetoric when it suits them on a local level and seem oblivious to the way this hurts our future electoral prospects nationwide. The question for local Democratic political leaders is, do you believe that building a strong labor movement is necessary in order to turn swing states blue, and what are you doing to support it? Here in West Hollywood, we have legitimate disagreements over development of housing versus hotels and the power of corporate developers in the city's politics. Those disagreements are one thing, and we see the referendum before you as part of the debate about a rational zoning policy in the city, one that addresses all constituents' needs. But when politicians call themselves Democrats and then participate in disgraceful anti-union rhetoric, we have to ask what kind of Democrat you really are. When a West Hollywood Democratic politician calls the organization of immigrant housekeepers, cooks, and dishwashers that serve the city's hotels outsiders, they sound less like a Democrat and more like Donald Trump. When politicians try to justify attacks on unions with arguments of false equivalence, that because you disagree with our housing and zoning argument, somehow these attacks are justified, or just another version of what the union does, you sound like the Republicans who attacked us in Arizona. We call on you to repudiate this shame rhetoric and stand up to the rich developers, unprincipled political consultants, and anti-union Republicans who invented it. Thank you.
Thank you. Max Greenberg, Jorge Saparak.
Hi, my name is Max Greenberg, and I'm a resident of West Hollywood. As a resident, I'm well aware of the culture the city has been rapidly transforming from one that values affordability into one that caters to luxury tourism and celebrity culture. The Arts Club Development Project is just one of those projects that is promoting this change. This petition, signed by almost 3,000 residents of your city, is sending a clear message to you. We do not want this kind of rezoning for luxury, exclusive club in our community, and we do not want the City Council to offer any more generous entitlement packages to developments that do not benefit our community. You need to put a stop to rapid luxury development occurring in West Hollywood. Our city is in desperate need of affordable housing, not luxury development, and the city's land use policy should reflect that. You have a duty to me and to our fellow community members to listen to our needs. This petition illuminates the power of our city's residents when they organize and fight back against zoning policy that ignores our needs in favor of upscale luxury tourism. It serves as a warning to our elected officials that we will not allow our community to be rezoned with luxury projects made entirely inaccessible to us. The anti-union rhetoric that was splashed in my community during this campaign really concerns me, especially against the backdrop of this political landscape today. When extremely conservative viewpoints are allowed to run rampant unchecked, it leads to even greater issues in our community. I stand here in support of the workers here and for the preservation of my community and for the people that actually live here, many of which wouldn't even be able to afford a membership to this club. We urge you to listen and respond to the voices of your constituents by rescinding your rezoning approval of the Arts Club development. Thank you.
Thank you. Jorge Saparak, Steve Martin, Britta McAmber.
Good evening. My name is Jorge Seperat, and I work at the SLS Hotel. I'm a chastour. I represent the workers. I live in West Hollywood for almost 18 years. We came here in August with a group of workers and people from the community to ask you to not approve this project with many other workers. And you refused to hear us. After that, we knocked over 10,000 doors of West Hollywood residents to tell them about this project and the city's decision to drastically rezone for it. We received overwhelming support from the people who elect you. The people who elect you think that workers in this city deserve an opportunity to live in this city and benefit from shorter commute and all the services and features of this city that you all get to enjoy. We deal with anti-union tactics such as door hanger that was printed and hung all over the city. Personally, I was getting text messages from the city hall, emails, to say, if you sign, refuse that you sign those things, it's different campaigns you guys did it. This project could have been housing. So many of my friends who came to this city in hopes of being accepted by one city that claims to truly accept people from all backgrounds cannot afford to live here because all of the luxury developments that continues to be approved. Not that we successfully qualify this referendum. Please listen once to us once and change your policy of rezoning for bad projects like this one. I see my city changing for all these years I live over here. Little grocery stores, John's, they are gone. We have just these expensive grocery stores and places that we cannot afford.
Thank you. Thank you. Steve Martin, Britta McAmber, Keith Kaplan.
Steve Martin, West Hollywood. The Arts Club's a long way from my house, and I didn't feel particularly impacted by it. But when a member of Unite Here came and knocked on my door and talked to me about the project, and I asked a number of questions, and they pointed out to me that a residentially zoned lot was going to simply be ceded to a deep-pocketed developer without any real benefit to the city in regard to housing. And that just seemed to be a real short deal for the city of West Hollywood. I know we're supposedly getting a number of benefits at the dubious math of about $13 million. But this community needs housing. We're committed to housing. And this is an intrusion of commercial interest into a residential zone. Now, we did this before for a hotel on Sunset, and it's just not a good idea. It betrays the values that we proclaim, that we're trying to make this a livable city, and we're trying to create places for people to live. So I just think that this is, well, I wish this would have been on the regular calendar. I also want to speak on 5C, which is the $100,000 that the city wants to spend on educational values, educational information for the marijuana tax initiative. I was going to speak last meeting in support of the marijuana tax. It was put onto the consent calendar, so I didn't get a chance to say anything. And I support it fully, but I do not support the city spending taxpayer dollars on what is essentially going to be campaigning for the marijuana tax. I'm happy to campaign for it. I know a lot of you are happy to campaign for it. Let's do what we're supposed to do. Let's do our grassroots homework and get that item passed. But I'm very opposed to spending $100,000 in taxpayer money for this campaign. It just sets a bad precedent, because if you can spend $100,000 on education for the marijuana tax, why can't you spend $100,000 to educate people on the benefits of the art club? And that's where the thin edge of the wedge is. So thank you for your indulgence.
Thank you. Britta McOmber, Keith Kaplan, Genevieve Morrill.
Hello, my name is Britta McOmber, and I am a resident of West Hollywood. As a resident of this city, I want to say that I'm opposed to the changes in the zoning map that allowed for the elimination of future residential housing development in favor of a luxury development that will only cater to and serve elitist interests and people, and not the people who actually live in this community. When we're in an unprecedented housing crisis in this community, in LA County and across the entire state, and we need more multifamily residential housing development here in this city. And I also just want to say thank you to the members of the union Unite Here who spent so much time organizing in this community and for bringing this issue to my attention and just really giving me the information that I needed to make an informed opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Keith Kaplan, Genevieve Morrill, Elise Eisenberg.
Good evening, City Council, Mayor Duran. My name is Keith Kaplan. I am a resident of West Hollywood. To begin with, I'm going to make a clear statement. I am a Democrat. I think you all know that. I grew up in a household that was union supportive. My father had a chain of automobile dealerships. They were all union shops. I understand and am in agreement with the need to provide workers' rights, address working conditions, and provide fair and livable wages. But as unions have waned in popularity, we have seen union officials stoking the fire among rank-and-file members by focusing them on baseless claims and meritless campaigns, more to justify their fat cat management salaries than to provide any meaningful benefit to the rank-and-file membership. We're seeing that unfold here in West Hollywood, and our city is being held captive to these union moves. We saw it with the Robertson Lane project, where United Here embarked upon a virtual smear campaign to gain signatures for a referendum to stop the development of that project. And after a costly campaign to alert residents to this deceit, enough signatures were gained to rescind that effort. But here we are again, and this time it's the Arts Club. Danielle Wilson can give you whatever lies she wants about the Concerned Coalition that went door to door, but I asked my guy. He was a paid student canvasser. And what he spoke to me about was that seniors will be forced out of their homes. We're taking away affordable housing. That the building was going to be large and ugly, and so many lies to gain these signatures. And these ill-gotten signatures do not attest to a powerful message to the city's leadership asking them to say no to luxury development. It's simply another attempt by the union to puff out their chest and show the rank and file that they can make noise. They are holding our city hostage, and we need to do better than this and send them a message that we will not tolerate this. I urge you to support what you've supported before and allow this project to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Genevieve Morrill, to be followed by Elise Eisenberg, followed by John Lovejoy.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and Council. Genevieve Morrill, President and CEO of the West Hollywood Chamber of Commerce. Here we are again. I feel like Unite Here is going to be here at every project that we have. So let me get this straight. Unite Here is accusing the council of supporting Trump if they support economic development or this project. I know all of you, all 5 of you, are union supporters. You're Democrat supporters. But apparently, this project, if we do this, I don't think being Democrat means that if we support a project that helps the Sunset Strip on a commercial corridor, not a residential corridor, which I still don't even understand their arguments. It's long known that Unite Here has suffered in membership. And this is being pushed, they pushed for a $15 minimum wage, and as soon as Los Angeles passed it, they asked for their own exemption for their employees, that they shouldn't have to pay that $15 minimum wage. This is just another plot for them to then drum up membership and again make ridiculous accusations about something that doesn't exist. This isn't about housing. This is about a beautiful project that has great community benefit. The Arts Club pays their employees equal or above to what Unite Here standards. The Arts Club also offers their employees full benefit packages, unlike Unite Here, and they offer childcare and telecommuting opportunities for eligible employees. Unite Here does not care about the amazing jobs that the Arts Club will bring to West Hollywood. They only care about their dues, and that's what this is about. And really, this is ridiculous that this keeps coming up every single project that Unite Here, particularly the fraudulent way that they are gathering signature. I would garner the assumption that 80% of those signatures are people that don't understand that this was a commercial project on Sunset Strip, not a housing development. Thank you.
Thank you. Elise Eisenberg, John Lovejoy, Brian McDonald.
Elise Eisenberg, West Hollywood. First of all, I would like to applaud West Hollywood and this council for its longtime support of affordable housing and all of the efforts you make to build affordable housing, especially in all of the developments along the Sunset Strip and all of the hotel developments. This project is not a hotel development. I would also like to say I am pro-union, and I have been pro the efforts of United Here to try and unionize all the hotels. This project is not a hotel. I think you've all been very surprised that I was very supportive of the Arts Club development, one of the rare and probably the only project along the Sunset Strip that I've ever been supportive of. This is a beautiful project, and from day one I've been supportive of it, as have been a great majority of the residents, as well as the, like Genevieve said, the businesses around. But this is a fabulous project that has had the tremendous support of the people and the residents in the city since it was first announced. It's going to bring a lot of vitality to the Strip. I think the efforts of the union are misguided in trying to stop it. I think once it comes before the vote of the city, they will see that it has a lot of support to go forward. I think, yes, we do need affordable housing in the city, but this is a commercial property. Yes, maybe there was a little bit of residential zoning on it, but the majority of this property is commercial. And we do have, the city makes every effort to bring affordable housing into the projects along the Strip, but primarily in the projects where it's appropriate, and this is probably not one of those projects. So I applaud the city's efforts to put this on the ballot before the residents where it should be decided there. Thank you.
Thank you. John Lovejoy, Brian McDonald, Kelly Stagg.
Hi, my name is John Lovejoy, and I'm a resident of West Hollywood. And I just want to say, while I'm in favor of affordable housing for the homeless, I'm equally in favor of anything that advocates art and culture. I think like this art thing does. So I'm in favor of it, so I just want to say that. Thanks.
Thank you. Brian McDonald, Kelly Stagg, Dominic Batti Bonanno.
Hi, Brian McDonald, resident of City of West Hollywood. My concern on this project stems from the fact that it's gotten this far and it has to go to a vote. This is clearly a commercial strip. I don't understand the arguments for taking away housing. If housing is an issue, there are many other ways to address it, and the City of West Hollywood does address it. If this is a union issue, it should have nothing to do with moving this forward on a ballot for a general vote. This project will provide a public benefit of $12 to $13 million. It'll provide an art gallery, a music venue. It will provide 200 to 300 jobs, and those jobs, many of them pay very good benefits. There's really very little downside to this project. I'm bewildered how it got to this stage, and would hope that in the future that efforts are made to screen out what appear to be ballot referendum drives based more on special interests than the public interest. Thank you.
Thank you. Kelly Stagg, Dominic Batti Bonanno, Hector Barbosa.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Kelly Stagg. I live here in West Hollywood. And I just want to thank you all, especially the young people I see in this meeting tonight. You all have
Kelly, can you address
impressed me.
the council? People at home can't hear you.
They all have impressed me just so very much, just to see the drive and the passion that they have for this project. It's just something that we haven't seen over the years, and it just excites me so much as a mom of a 22-year-old. This Arts Club is very important. I think, first and foremost, it is important for us to have low-income housing. I think that that's something that we will see in the very near future becoming up before the council. But this Arts Club is something that was huge and is huge in England. And when we did bring it before the board, we saw that there was tremendous interest with the community. And I drove past this area not once but twice today. There are lots of vacant stores. It's surrounded by, let's see, I saw tattoo shops, I saw liquor stores, there's one single gas station, and there's West Hollywood Elementary School back there. And let's not forget that this would be replacing the Hustler store. And there's West Hollywood Elementary store right in back of there, West Hollywood Elementary School. And this Arts Club would be also opening up an opportunity. Part of the program is that they would have a space for local artists to practice and to train.
Thank you very
So,
much.
that's my opinion.
Thank you. Dominic Batti Bonanno, Hector Barbosa.
Hey guys, good evening. Dominic Beatty Bonanno. I'm all in favor for this project. The thing I've noticed is West Hollywood, we've always fancied ourselves in being the city of art, and yet I don't really see it. You see it in Beverly Hills, and I keep hearing people talking about commercial profiteering. Beverly Hills does it every day. And I think that we as a city, all together, West Hollywood, we could really be a driving force in this city, not just for West Hollywood. I'm talking about Silver Lake, downtown, just all of it all together. And I think that part of this project would also be to mentor kids, because the first thing that goes into the schools is what? That they kick out, the arts. Well, this is part of that. You know, and people keep talking about the rich, the rich, the rich. Well, sometimes we need to use the rich to get to one point, to the next point. So I'm all in favor of it, and I hope that you all are as well. And yeah, so I just want to see this project go forward. And I really believe in this city, and I believe in all of you. So thank you.
Thank you. Hector Barbosa, Tina Varlanian for Alice Chadwick-Keeley.
Hello, everyone. My name is Hector Barbosa, and I'm a long-term resident of West Hollywood. After getting to know you, in these gatherings here for quite some time now, I know that you're a very intelligent group of people, and I know that you're going to do the right thing. You know what the real issues are. I just want to share my experience, what has been, with this so-called union and what they were representing, which was deceitful. Okay, I went to Starbucks one morning, and there was somebody there, acquiring, signatures. And basically, this person who looked like she was just a young woman on crack said, "You don't really have to care about this. This is just, for me to feed my 2 babies." Okay, so she didn't even bother to explain exactly what she was trying to do. I gathered that she was getting some signatures from people. Not enough time was being spent on each of them, so she could fully explain, what she was trying to do. Later that same day, I was headed towards Trader Joe's, and right in front of Gym Bar, somebody had set up a little table and sat down, and I noticed that there was a line of people. When I approached one of the people that is an acquaintance of mine, He was there with a number of friends having drinks, and all these people in this group were from either South Central or east of downtown. So they have nothing to do with West Hollywood. And they said that they were signing for something that had to do with, not displacing people. Okay, displacing them from what? From their living quarters. Okay, when you have a cause that you know it's right for everyone, you don't have to resort to this lies and deceit. You tell exactly the people what the problem is, and you get the right people to work or to volunteer, on your behalf. You don't have to resort to, all this bullshit. So I know that you guys are going to do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Tina Varlanian for Alice Chadwick Healy.
Good evening. My name is Tina Vartanian. Alice Chadwick Healy, the executive director of the Arts Club, was unable to attend tonight and asked me to read her letter into the record. Honorable council members, it is with great regret that I could not make it from London to be with you in West Hollywood tonight for this very important meeting. Earlier this summer, you approved our project, which will replace the Hustler building and instead bring a beautiful public art gallery and performance space to Sunset Boulevard, a club which will create multiple jobs, live music, and cafes at street level, and more than $12 million in public benefits. Despite this, we understand that opponents of the Arts Club have been misrepresenting this project and misleading the community to gather signatures to rescind our entitlements. On behalf of all of us at the Arts Club, I cannot stress more strongly how we are looking forward to joining your community and to support the arts in West Hollywood as a whole. Our staff are the club's heartbeat, and you can rest assured that we will meet or exceed every requirement the city places on us for their safety, care, and earnings while they work for us. I just hope you will feel able to vote tonight to support our project, and we urge you to not rescind your approvals for this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrew Kratzer for Bobby Edrick. And that's our final speaker.
Good evening, council members. My name is Andrew Kratzer, reading a letter from Bobby Edrick, who couldn't attend tonight because of an injury. Dear honorable council members, I am writing you today in support of the Arts Club project located at 8920 Sunset Boulevard and on behalf of the Norma Triangle. The Arts Club, founded by Charles Dickens, is going to replace the Hustler store with a bistro, music, and art gallery, along with free rehearsal space for local singers, dancers, and performers. The Arts Club will provide over $12 million in public benefits. Opponents of the Arts Club gathered signatures from our community by providing false information and misrepresenting the project. Lies told by Unite Here Local 11 canvassers to gather signatures include: the Arts Club eliminated low-income housing. Sign this petition to save the rainbow. By signing this petition, you would like the Arts Club to stay in West Hollywood. By signing this petition, you would get rid of the Hustler store. The Arts Club is supported by hundreds of local leaders, residents, and small business owners in West Hollywood. It shouldn't be that easy for the referendum process to rescind entitlements. Residents of West Hollywood should be able to weigh in. If we believe in the process, we need to set an election, not rescind approvals based on a tainted signature gathering process. Please do not rescind your approvals. Our community would be so lucky to have the Arts Club in our neighborhood. Thank you, Bobby Edrick, captain of the Norma Triangle Neighborhood Watch.
Thank you. Keith Kaplan, I understand you have a general comment. Okay. He did, but we put 5A on consent, so.
Thank you, Mayor. Really, this is about a collaborative effort between the West Hollywood Chamber of Commerce and the City of West Hollywood. And that is, I'm excited to announce, our Small Business Saturday program. So I want to encourage everyone to come out the Saturday after Thanksgiving and take part in Small Business Saturday in the small businesses throughout West Hollywood. You know, our small businesses help to define the unique West Hollywood experience. They're an integral part of our community, servicing our residents and providing the tax revenues that support our beautification and our social service programs, and they provide the innovative products and the extraordinary services that will really stand out as holiday gifts this year. In addition, many of the stores throughout the community will be providing a portion of the proceeds to the West Hollywood Homeless Coalition. So we urge you all, please step out and join the fun. We have celebrities that will be at stores throughout West Hollywood this Saturday for the American Express Small Business Saturday, Shop Small Saturday WeHo. We hope to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our public comment for the evening. We'll now move to council member comments. Councilmember Heilman, do you want to start tonight?
Sure.
First of all, I apologize if I appear to be winking at you. I'm having problem with my eye again, and so I apologize for that. I want to thank everyone in the community who voted in the recent election. I want to thank all the people who also worked on campaigns, not just here in West Hollywood, but throughout the state. I know some of my colleagues, as well as myself and others in the city, went to different districts, to Katie Hill's district, to Harley Ruta's district, to Mike Levin's district. Some of our residents went to Arizona as well as Nevada to work on campaigns, and it really paid off. So I want to thank everyone who participated in the electoral process. I did have some comments regarding 2N, and I would request that I have no problem with the item that's presented, which is to extend the agreement for services with American GTS, but I still have concerns about the design of the Sunset Shuttle and why that got approved, which in my mind was without the council's input and approval, and I believe that needs to be brought back to the council for discussion and evaluation. So I'd like to give direction that that be done at a future council meeting. And I wanted to thank all the people who spoke tonight on the Arts Club issue. As people may recall, I did not vote for the project because I thought it was too big and unnecessarily big. I think that the initiative process, though, is not the right way to address that issue. I also wanted to clarify a few points that were made by some of the speakers and maybe a few corrections. Somebody made reference to Meltdown Comics. That is actually in the city of LA, not in the city of West Hollywood. It's on Sunset Boulevard, east of West Hollywood. There were references to residentially zoned property. This was actually zoned residential with a parking overlay. And for those of you who are familiar with the site, it has always been with parking on it, commercial parking on that residentially zoned strip. It has been commercial parking, as far as I can recall, almost since the beginning of the city. So this was not land that was being used for residential structures in any way. I also want to clarify, because there were a number of comments about affordable housing, and somebody said, "Go, that issue will be coming forward." We have been committed to affordable housing in the city of West Hollywood since we began. As a city, we have a rent stabilization ordinance, which is much stricter than the city of LA's. We also have an inclusionary housing ordinance, which requires all new residential developments to include inclusionary, low-cost, affordable housing that is permanently affordable for the life of the project. That's both low and moderate income housing. So any structure that is 10 units or more is required to have permanent affordable housing included in it. Any units or any buildings less than 10 units have to pay, either have the units on site or pay an in lieu fee to our affordable housing fund. We also fund nonprofit developers to develop permanently affordable housing in the city of West Hollywood, and we just recently opened a new building over on the east side with 22 units, I believe, of permanent affordable housing for low and moderate income residents of the community. So I do share that commitment to affordable housing. I think that everyone on the council does and the community does. So I just wanted to make sure that people understood what the city's policies actually are with respect to affordable housing. So thank you for speaking tonight.
Thank you. Councilmember Meister.
Thank you. I just have a few things. First, regarding item 2F, I want to congratulate the Transportation Commission, as they're going to be reviewing traffic and circulation sections of draft environmental impact reports, and I'm sure they've been looking forward to doing that. On item 2P, I want to thank Councilmember Hallman for bringing this forward regarding immigration services, and I just want to ask staff that anything new that they come up with, that they incorporate that into the guide for LGBT immigrants and asylum seekers that we already have created, and that's on the website. I wanted to mention that 2R, I have an item about a resolution in opposition to China's decision to reverse the ban on using rhino and tiger bones in medicine, and apparently China has now reversed that decision, but I would still like to adopt the resolution so that we are on record in case they reverse the reversal. And regarding the 5A and the Arts Club referendum, I'm supportive of allowing the voters to decide, option 2. And I just also want to say that, you know, I've been fairly critical of development projects for the last, 20 years. And there's a lot of balancing and weighing of pros and cons when you're looking at a new project. And I felt that this project actually had the support of community members that live by the project, both to the north and to the south. And oftentimes we see people coming to support projects that don't live in the neighborhood, may not even live in the city. So I was really impressed by the support that I saw by the neighbors. Also, we did ask for, within the public benefit, that money goes back into the neighborhood. And also there is a housing trust, affordable housing fee that gets charged to every new development. There is, yes, a residentially zoned component, but again, that, as Councilmember Heilman mentioned, that has been a parking lot, a surface parking lot for many, many years. And the amount of money that would come out of the affordable housing fee, if an 8-unit building was built on that property, which is the amount of units that would be allowed to be built, there only 1 or 2 of those units would be designated as affordable units. And so the fee that is being charged with the project will go towards the building of affordable units. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Horvath?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a lot to say tonight, so apologies in advance for the time I'll take, but since the bulk of our agenda is consent, that's where I'm spending it. I first want to thank all of the first responders who've been working tirelessly in addressing the impact of the fires, especially our own Public Safety Department, Sheriff's Department, Fire Department, and especially our Public Safety Department for their support and leadership. When the fire spread to Malibu, we became sort of command control for them in a way, and I know that Paul, Kristen, and Sergio in particular, but so many others really gave countless hours to that effort, and we're all hands on deck for hours around the clock. So I want to thank our community for how we've all stepped up to support those who have been impacted by the fires, and thank you for the hard work that you've done and continue to do. I want to echo Councilmember Heilman's congratulations to all who worked on the campaigns that had elections this past a couple weeks ago on Tuesday. And it was very exciting to see such a high voter turnout and to see Friends of Equality, Justice, and Fairness see victory. I participated along with some of those who mentioned in comments tonight. I traveled to Nevada and Arizona 4 times in Arizona. Kirsten's a good friend of mine whom I knew before she was a congresswoman. So I was very grateful to see all of the support out there in the community. But I especially want to thank our West Hollywood's own Karen Ayers, who actually ran the West Side Democratic headquarters. If any of you volunteered there, phone banked there, she was actually the one who did it. Organized it. There were a lot of people who made it happen, but she was kind of command control of that location, and I want to congratulate her on all of her efforts. Since our last council meeting, I participated in the Clean Power Alliance board meeting. I also represented the city at National League of Cities, where it was announced that our city was the first city to join Maria Shriver in her women's Alzheimer's movement. I'm glad to see this issue prioritized, and Mayor Duran signed on to that on behalf of our city. It's a very exciting opportunity for us to be involved in this important issue.
We also participated in panel discussions with our chamber representatives. I want to thank Genevieve for participating not once but twice in conversations about cannabis, as well as Jackie Rocco from our staff who participated, and John Leonard who also participated and helped to educate communities around the country about how we developed our policy and how that's continuing to roll out here in the community. And I also want to thank Councilmember Heilman for taking a leadership role in helping our community host the Gay and Lesbian, Bisexual, Transgender Caucus of the National League of Cities here in West Hollywood. Out elected officials and ally elected officials were gathered here in West Hollywood as part of that conference, and it was great to be able to host such a supportive community from around the country and show them a bit of West Hollywood. I want to thank everyone who participated in our Veterans Day commemoration and thank our staff members who made it possible. I also want to give Andy Harlan a special shout out for those of you who were present. He coordinated a very special flyover in honor of that day, and that is no easy task to do, so I want to thank him for his efforts on that. I also want to congratulate the West Hollywood Community Housing Corporation on opening Blue Hibiscus, which is a new, completely affordable housing project. That's one of many that we've seen come to our community, and I'm sure it won't be the last, but I thank them for the hard work that they did to make that possible. I also, along the lines of providing housing, I know that Councilmember Rue recently broke ground just outside our border on Gardner, just north of Fountain, for bridge housing for women. And so that project, they expect to be opening next summer. This will be a transitional homeless shelter and housing shelter for women. And I'm sure that women in our community that we know will also be able to be served by this shelter. And I think it's going to be an important facility for our region. So I congratulate him on that. I also want to thank everyone who participated in the recent Next Gen event. It was a good success, and lots of people were engaged with the city who had never been so before. I especially want to thank our staff members who made it possible. And also thanks again to the Chamber for their Creative City Awards organization. I think while it's always a fun event, sometimes a long event, but we always have a great time together, and I thank you for making it possible. With regard to some of the items that are on our consent agenda tonight, I wanted to clarify with the city attorney, there was a mention of, on item 5C, that we're using city dollars for campaign purposes with regard to the cannabis tax, and I want to clarify that we are allowed to use funds in this way, and if you could speak to the difference between what we're doing versus what a campaign material would be, that'd be great. Do you want to do that now or in your own comments later? Later? Okay. And then if you could also address the comment whether we could similarly educate folks if this item does pass tonight about the benefits of the Arts Club project. I think that question was raised as well. I think with regard to item 5A, I agree with that no one should be able to limit people's ability to organize. I think that's why we're having that conversation tonight, and I think that's why this council is deciding to turn it over to the voters, because the voters do get to have a voice in this conversation. I think that the facts for the project speak for themselves, but I think there's also been a lot of misinformation that's out there about what this project is and is not. I'm glad that my colleagues addressed some of those points, but just to reiterate, no one is being displaced by this project. It is the residentially zoned area, as was mentioned, is being used for an easement. No housing is being removed, and this is not a site that was ever contemplated for affordable housing. There were no text messages sent from City Hall. There were no, that was not, if you received text messages, those did not come from City Hall, nor were city funds used to communicate with folks about the signature gathering process.
There was comment that this property is entirely inaccessible. In fact, the majority of the property will be accessible to the public. There is a part of it that is a membership club, but there is also office space, there's accessible retail on the ground floor, there's a restaurant that will open up into the pedestrian way and activate it, and there's also a space that is specifically for community benefit and for artistic purposes. There's a great deal of this building that will actually be accessible to the public, so I just wanted to clarify that. I also want to say that I disagree that the folks who have brought this referendum forward are simply interested in collecting union dues. I don't think that's why they brought this forward. I think they're trying to elevate a conversation about workers' rights and benefits coming to the whole community. I think it is their right to do so. So I just want to clarify that. I don't think that's a fair characterization of what's happening here. I think also that it was right for them to fight for a $15 minimum wage, and I support their right to do that. I supported that here in our own community, and while it didn't succeed, I'm glad that they continue to fight that and have that conversation in communities everywhere. I would hope that also no one would misrepresent employees of businesses in our community as outsiders. I think that that's an important distinction, and to that point, I know that there was reference to printed materials that were circulated around the community, and I regret that I was not able to look at those printed materials before they were circulated. They did include my picture and a quote that I approved, but there was much language on those printed pieces that I did not approve and with which I do not agree. And so I just want to make sure that I clarify publicly, I do not see workers in this community as outsiders. I think that workers in this community deserve the benefits of development and protections as workers in our businesses, and just as much as everyone else in the community deserves those protections and benefits. I also think that this project shouldn't be misrepresented as something that was slated for affordable housing. It wasn't, and it was never conceived of in that way. And while there is a desperate need for housing, especially affordable housing, we are one of the only cities in the entire state of California that actually meets our state set goals to create housing. And I encourage all of the members of the community to continue to support us in that effort. We work hard to do so. And I think that's something we will continue to do. Like I said where I started, the facts will speak for themselves, and hopefully the conversation that we have moving forward can be based in fact and not based in rhetoric. And finally, as I mentioned, I serve on the board for Clean Power Alliance representing our community, and I want to raise Southern California Edison customers, which is all of us, including the actual city, and alert you to an issue that we have recently become aware of. We've been working diligently at Clean Power Alliance, which will soon be our clean power provider in West Hollywood, to get our current customers onboarded and served. We currently have 3 territories that are being served by Clean Power Alliance. We've had great success in doing so and have even contracted to generate clean power through wind farms, which are not only a new source of clean energy, but also a great source of new jobs. In my role on the board, I also serve as the legislative and regulatory chair, and I've been working closely with our board and staff on an issue that's of great importance, I believe, to our community as we prepare to transition to clean power in 2019. It's come to our attention last summer, Southern California Edison severely undercharged their customers for power. This cost is estimated at $750 million with a B, dollars, and that number is still counting. The calculating error on their part could have been addressed this past June with a mid-year rate adjustment. Even though Southern California Edison knew of this error at that time, they elected not to adjust their rates. Instead, they're now trying to use a routine proceeding on rates to insert a request for authorization from the Public Utilities Commission to backcharge to you, their customers, for their error. This could mean substantial rate hikes for our community and all communities served by Southern California Edison.
It's worth noting that Clean Power Alliance, our new provider next year, was providing power, as I mentioned, to 3 territories at the same time, and we did not experience the same calculating issues that Southern California Edison did. In fact, no other utility is reporting this kind of issue, which suggests that it was not an issue with the power markets, but with the investor-owned utility. We are working on this matter at Clean Power Alliance, and I'm representing our interests there for our community, but I believe this is an issue we should address as a city, as we could be impacted as a Southern California Edison customer. And so I would ask that the city attorney work with Robin Eason and our staff to prepare an item for discussion at our next council meeting in the event we would like to take some sort of action on this issue. I believe there should be transparency around what's happened, how ratepayers could potentially be impacted, and what the Public Utilities Commission is doing to protect ratepayers from these kind of mistakes. We don't deserve to pay for the errors of a utility company, especially when they have not seen a single consequence to date for their error. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, just have a handful of things. One note for the city clerk, and actually my colleague, Councilmember Meister, caught it. Item on the minutes of our last meeting under item 4B, the record should reflect that Councilmember Meister and Duran voted no. I think the minutes say D'Amico, so we need to make that change. That Councilmember Meister and I voted no for different reasons, but we both voted no. Totally opposite reasons, yeah. A few highlighted events. Tomorrow night is the annual Transgender Day of Remembrance. It's the one night of the year that we take a moment in the community to pause to remember those victims of hate and violence in our transgender community, not only here in the city of West Hollywood, but around the world. That event will be up at the Jeremy Hotel on the Sunset Strip at 6 o'clock. There will be speeches, and then there will be a march. All are welcome to participate with our transgendered community tomorrow night. Sunday is the annual Toy Box Party. The Toy Box is an annual event started with AIDS Project Los Angeles that benefits children who are impacted by HIV and AIDS. My former roommate, Alan Friel, is one of the co-founders, along with the late Dana Miller and Kurt Sharp, who many, many years ago started the Toy Box for those children that were being born with HIV during the height of the epidemic in the 80s and early 90s. As time has progressed and the new medications and treatments became available, natal transmission from mother to child of HIV became very rare and in fact almost completely eliminated, at least in this country, in the United States. But nevertheless, the Toy Box Party continues, especially in Dana Miller's memory, as an annual event for the community to bring a toy and make a contribution so that we will be able to spread Christmas and holiday joy to those children around Greater Los Angeles who have been impacted by the HIV and AIDS epidemic. And that's this Sunday at the Lapeer Hotel from 4 to 8. I got a call from 2 Malibu mayors this week. One was the former mayor, my friend and colleague Pamela Conley-Ulick, who called when she and her husband were on the roof, watering down their rooftop, asking me to make sure that certain requests were made. And then the other was just today from the current mayor of Malibu, Rick Mullen. The city of West Hollywood, we have a great relationship with all the West Side cities. West Hollywood, Beverly Hills, Culver City, Santa Monica, and Malibu share a lot in common as the West Side communities. But Rick wanted to compliment our city manager, and I think Lindsay thanked him for all of the tasks that he was doing to coordinate Malibu and West Hollywood, and of course the amazing Kristen Cook and all the public safety staffers who ended up staffing command post liaisons, PIO information, finance section chief. In essence, we became a second operating city hall for Malibu while they were under evacuation. So the mayor's, former mayor and current mayor of Malibu asked me to make a comment this evening to thank West Hollywood City Hall management, staff, and sheriffs, and of course our firefighters for greatly assisting the people of the city of Malibu. Speaking of our city manager, he He did give me a really bizarre call a week and a half ago that the FBI had contacted West Hollywood City Hall to alert City Hall and to alert me that my name was on the list of Cesar Sayoc, the Florida pipe bomber who had been targeting various Democratic and elected officials across the United States. He is obviously in custody and will be in custody for a very long time. So it's highly unlikely that anything will become of the fact that he was researching my name. I guess between the key to Stormy Daniels and Evening with Michael Avenatti and the Trump balloon flying over West Hollywood Park, that was probably enough to push all of his buttons. So I want to thank the city manager, the public safety staff, and of course the sheriffs who assisted me through some of this process. But I think it brings up an important point that in 2019, I imagine that the politics between the president and the Congress are going to become somewhat elevated and heated, and thus extremists are more likely to use varying tactics. And I think West Hollywood is one of those communities that historically has always been targeted by the right in American politics. So as we move forward into the new year, into 2019, as the politics continue to heat up with the Mueller investigation concluding, I just want to remind the people of the city of West Hollywood that we are always on guard here, help the sheriffs out. If you see something or hear something, say something, especially in our very large gatherings like Halloween and Christopher Street West. We want to make sure that we don't have anything disastrous occur within our community. The other issue I wanted to talk about briefly is that World AIDS Day is upon us. This is the 30th anniversary of World AIDS Day, something that we hold very dear here in the city of West Hollywood. Between 1980 and 1995, people, the zip codes 90046, 90048, and 90069 lost 10,000 residents to HIV and AIDS. That is the equivalent of, I think, a bomb being dropped in the middle of a town to lose that many people over such a short period of time. And those of us that have resided here for a very long period certainly know that everybody who lived here during the epidemic knew somebody that died of HIV or AIDS. And so this is the annual day where we remember them. Of course, the quilt will be with us at the APLA Gleicher Chen Health Center at their West Hollywood office on La Brea right after Thanksgiving through the end of the year. AIDS Watch, which I think was the creation by David Reed. I don't see him tonight, but I want to thank him as an electronic memorial to place all the names of those who died within our community on our WehoTV screens from November 30th through December 2nd. And of course, on Friday, November 30th, the Alliance for Housing and Healing will host their annual Candlelight Vigil. The vigil will begin at 6 o'clock at Crescent Heights in Santa Monica at the Matthew Shepard Triangle Square. And we will march with candlelights and the quilts to remember those that we loved and lost in the epidemic. And the vigil will end here at City Council Chambers, where we will present the annual Paul Stark Warrior Awards. We're going to be acknowledging Ron Galperin, the Los Angeles City Controller. We're going to have speakers from the West Hollywood HIV Zero Initiative, Tony Valenzuela from, of course, our AIDS Monument, and Cheryl Barrett, the Executive Director of the LA County Commission on HIV. So that's happening between now and the next time we meet. That'll be on Friday, November 30th. We will commemorate World AIDS Day here in the city of West Hollywood. Now, before we move forward with the city manager's report, our Human Services Department asks that we take a moment to share a special video. This video highlights 3 of our city's priority initiatives: HIV Zero, that we get to 0 AIDS deaths and transmissions here in the city of West Hollywood. The Homeless Initiative that I know all my colleagues and I have been working on, and the Aging in Place Initiative, as well as some of the other current programming. This video was developed collaboratively by the Communications, Social Services, and Strategic Initiatives Division. So we'll just take a quick moment for a commercial break for this video.
I'm Jeffrey Rodriguez. I'm the Senior Program Manager for the Los Angeles LGBT Center, WeHo. I oversee HIV testing, STD testing, and PEP and PrEP services. Back in the day for me, there weren't free services. You relied on volunteers. But now, cut to today and working with the city of West Hollywood has been amazing. The fact that the city has this core community that has lived through this epidemic and is still here and still talking about it, for me is a privilege to work within that community.
My name is Jake Weinrob, and I work as a mental health clinician. I'm here to help folks that are struggling with homelessness or substance use get linked to care. I basically am a walking referral guide for services that are available in West Hollywood, and on top of that, I'm providing field therapeutic interventions.
I work at Vetsetic Legal Services. It is a nonprofit organization. We provide free legal services to people who are disabled, low income. We have caregiver services. We provide Holocaust reparations. We do a lot of housing. We do a lot of benefits. I can't think of any other community that is like West Hollywood. I've never seen any city that is so hands-on towards their constituents.
This multidisciplinary approach is really important because each individual person has such a variety of needs. And I think it's going to take all of the compassion and understanding and empathy that the city was founded on to help those who are struggling in our community.
Great. Thank you very much, social services staff. My colleague, Councilmember Heilman, has one more thing before we go to Paul.
Well, actually, two. One, I forgot to mention that I also attended the National League of Cities conference here in LA. And secondly, with everything we said, we forgot to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. So I want to do that as well.
All right, thank you. City Manager.
Great. I'm going to actually, Mike, did you want to give your quick answer first?
Sure, and it will be quick. Public funds cannot be used to campaign for any matter that's on the ballot. Public funds can only be used for informational and educational purposes. So the intent of the item is to provide neutral, impartial, non-advocacy information regarding the measure. That answer your question?
I don't know that it clarifies the distinction between campaign materials, which was the suggestion made by the speaker from the public.
Campaign materials basically try to direct people how to vote. Vote yes, vote no. Informational materials, on the other hand, simply identify what the measure is about. For example, in this case of a tax, who will be taxed, what will the tax be, what will the proceeds of the tax be used for, that kind of information. But none of the material will say anything on the order of directing people how to vote, or suggesting to people how to vote.
Okay, thank you.
Mike, will you be reviewing the materials?
Do review those materials, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager.
Well, unfortunately, that wasn't the city manager. I still have the city manager.
No, I was calling on you, that's
all. Just a few light notes, then I wanted to talk a little bit about the emergency response in Malibu. First of all, a quick update from Human Services, the building at 8500 Sunset, which is right now being operated as AKA. All 17 of the inclusionary units are now rented, so that building with all of the affordable units are occupied, so that's a positive thing for us. Just a couple notes regarding Thanksgiving. City Hall will be closed this Thursday and Friday. On-street parking on Thanksgiving is free. Visitor parking is still available at Kings Road and at Kings Road parking structure and at the 5-story here at the park. Anyone who wants a visitor parking pass, they can obtain those at Kings Road or at the West Hollywood Sheriff Station. Meter hours and other times will be back to normal on Friday. Let's see. I did also want to talk a little bit about the Malibu fires and the response from not only the city of West Hollywood, but all of the West Side cities. The area, from the tragic shooting in Thousand Oaks to the fires that happened less than 48 hours after. A lot of the cities and emergency responders were on heightened alert. The city of Malibu had to actually have everyone evacuate the city, including obviously all of the city staff. The city of Santa Monica stepped up right away and provided them use of resources, primarily their emergency operations center. Resources have been provided from Beverly Hills, Culver City, Santa Clarita, even cities as far away as Indian Wells. For the city of West Hollywood, I know our communications department has been extremely active in providing Malibu and their team support. Lily Campbell from staff has been spending a lot of time in Malibu. Steve Campbell was the actual EOC director today, providing them resources. Julie Nims from finance has spent hours working with our finance department, working on the record so that they can file with FEMA claims. But I really have to point out, Kristen Cook has just been amazing. Since the fire, she's probably spent a minimum of 10 to 12 hours a day in Malibu, plus doing her job here in West Hollywood. She was actually ordered to stay home today. So she's texting me from home as she's home watching the football game. And she had a pet peeve. So she's watching the football game, and they're showing all the coaches from both teams, and they're wearing LAFD hats. And that's wrong. While I love LA City Fire, it's LA County Fire that's been the heroes in these fires. And those are our firefighters that are out there, as well as the LA County Sheriff. So on behalf of City Hall, we really want to thank, again, the first responders. And we've said it a lot tonight, but I just want to say it again because it deserves saying. Our staff has been amazing. So, and we're fortunate to have the resources and capacity to help those other cities. So that concludes my reports, and everybody have a great Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Paul. I think Councilmember Meister has a question.
Yep. Paul, there is a big concern about the coyotes, both in the Tri-West area and West Hollywood West area. And although I know we've adopted the Humane Society coexistence plan, it doesn't help when the den is in your backyard. Or in one of the construction sites, and there are so many in those neighborhoods. And I just wondered, if we could at least maybe get staff or someone outside to help give advice how to deal with it.
Definitely. If you have those contacts, forward them to me, and I'll work with the appropriate staff. Thank you.
Okay, that moves us to our consent calendar. Consent calendar is a matter in which multiple items are handled in one general motion. Before we can vote on the consent calendar, we need to have a report from the city clerk on the fiscal impact. Yvonne?
Yes, the fiscal impact for this evening with the addition of items 4A, 5A, and 5C, and the removal of items 2I, 2J, and 2K is $373,787 in expenditures, $80,000 in a potential loss of revenue, and $480 in waived fees.
All right, thank you. So moved by Councilmember Heilman, seconded by Horvath to approve the consent calendar. All those in favor indicate with an aye. Consent calendar passes unanimously. Thank you all for coming tonight with your comments. We'll now move to item number 4A was placed on consent, 5A on consent. That puts us to item 5B, which is matter brought by Councilmember Meister on city email addresses for commissions.
Would you like me to say something about
Yeah, I'm not
it?
sure who's presenting, you or...
Well, I guess it's me.
Okay.
I'm the only one here. So this item is, I brought this item forward because there have been some issues with commissioners getting emails from the public in a timely fashion before a public hearing, and also what's been posted on the website. It sometimes is confusing because there will be correspondence that'll be added to a PDF that's already been up there, and so people don't know that they should go back to the website to look for more correspondence. And so I just want to try to make it easier for both commissioners and the public to get information. And the email part of it would be similar to our council@weho.org, where it would go to the commissioners as well as the secretary of the, the planning or whatever department it is, secretary that usually is responsible for sending those emails. There are times that those emails go to planning, for example, a lead person on staff, and the secretary may not get it, so the commissioners don't get it, and they don't see it until at the meeting, and I guess at the last meeting, there was something like 90 pages of correspondence, and that's just not acceptable. So this would, and I'm willing to try this as a pilot program to see how it works. I mean, obviously, the commissions would have to, know that they can't respond because of the Brown Act. They can't reply to all. But I think that it would really help everybody get information in a timely manner. And that was the impetus of my item.
Okay, do we have any speakers on this item? No, okay. Councilmember Horvath?
Thank you, Mayor. When I served on the Los Angeles Unified School District Redistricting Commission, through our orientation, we addressed this issue by being instructed by staff to create a separate Gmail account so that we had a dedicated email service that could easily be set up and distinguish how we were communicated with as commissioners on that redistricting commission versus a public email account that wouldn't be legally searchable or seen as public document. So rather than creating new city accounts, perhaps as part of orientation for new board members and commissioners, we can just advise them to create new email addresses that they can use to be listed on the city's website to be communicated with. So there's a separation between public and private communication. And should any of their public communication be subject to a record search, it's separated from their personal accounts.
This actually wouldn't be individual accounts. It would be like we have council@weho.org. It would be PC, Planning Commission @weho.org, or historic HPC@weho.org. And then that would get distributed to their email accounts, their private email accounts, as we get ours, although we get ours at our WehoTV accounts.
All right, Councilmember Heilman?
Yeah, I have some serious concerns about this. I think our staff already have the emails for all of our commissioners. So when information comes in that the commissioners need, they can simply forward that information to the individual email accounts of those commissioners. I worry about setting up additional email accounts that are city accounts. I worry about the potential violation of the Brown Act from serial emails. I also worry about the fact that emails that are coming from those city accounts are now essentially the statement from a city account. And that's, it's troubling enough when we as council members send out emails. I think this would just multiply it by having a whole group of additional individuals who serve on our boards and commissions with a great deal of talent and skill. But I think sometimes when they send emails, at least some of them, may not be aware of the ramifications of an email coming from a city account. So I'm troubled by this, and I guess I do not support it.
Councilmember Heilman, if I can just address your concern. Again, this wouldn't be giving individual WeHo.org email addresses. It would be like we have council@weho.org, and then it would be if something went to, for example, Planning Commission at weho.org, it would just be distributed automatically to the commissioners on that commission. So the concern about not replying to all, and the Brown Act concern would obviously, that would have to be reiterated to the commissioners, but that could happen now if they're individually, if someone sends an email to all, 7 commissioners with their personal email addresses, that could happen as well. And again, what I would love to do is at least do a pilot, and maybe we just pick one commission like the Planning Commission and do a pilot and see, try it for 6 months and see how it works. And if it doesn't work, then we don't expand it to other commissions.
Okay, I guess I'm tending to lean with Councilmember Heilman. Does our city attorney have any opinion on what's being discussed?
After the California Supreme Court decided the San Jose case last year, it became a bit more challenging to deal with public records requests involving emails of elected officials that were not on a city server, simply because when Public Record Act requests came in requesting emails from officials who were using their private accounts, it's necessary to ask them to reach into their private accounts to find relevant emails. That's the biggest, in my judgment, the really principal reason for, or the principal advantage of having appointed official emails on the city server. Obviously, there are potential disadvantages in terms of setting it up and administering it and adding to what we already have on our server. But it's a balance. I don't know how many public record requests we get that reach into the emails of our appointed officials. That's obviously a consideration. I don't know that we get that many. Some of my clients have gone this route and have given a city email address to all of their appointed officials. The one that I'm thinking of course, doesn't have nearly as many boards and commissions as we do. So again, it oftentimes is an individualized kind of a determination on a case-by-case basis. But certainly the San Jose case is the best reason for wanting to do it.
Okay, thank you. Is there any further discussion, or is there a motion?
I would like to make a motion that we pass this as a pilot program just for say the Planning Commission for 6 months, and then see how it goes and get a report back from staff and the commission, and then go from there.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second? I'm sorry, Councilmember Meister, I think your motion dies for lack of a second. All right, thank you. Okay, that moves us now to items that were pulled from consent items, starting with item 2I, public infrastructure. Was that passed on consent, John? You asked us to hold that.
No, 2I was Lindsay
Somebody
asked.
asked.
to hold it.
I'm sorry, you did.
I also have questions on it.
Okay.
So I reviewed my questions with staff ahead of time, and I'm happy to go through them quickly. First, in the paving improvement section, there was a suggestion of that the city would need to budget an additional $4 million over the next 5 years to reach the goal of increasing our rating on our paving projects. And I wanted to express that I'm supportive of that budget increase over the next 5 years. If council would like to give that direction, I'm supportive of that. I also wanted to clarify that it sounds like the Southern California Edison light transfer will happen by the end of the year, and so I think that's good news that the community should know. And also, our sewer lines have all been examined, and the status of our sewer lines is officially documented with the city. And I would like to ask that staff approach the agencies that represent our water mains and our gas lines to attempt to work with them to create the same type of analysis and assessment of their quality at this point in time as well. So that would, I think that's a motion that's required outside of the receive and file. So I'll make that motion.
Okay, Councilmember Horvath made a motion to amend the item as she just directed. Is there a second to that? Councilmember Heilman, do you wish to speak to your second?
Yes, and I wanted to thank staff for doing this. I think this was in response to a direction I gave before to do sort of a public infrastructure management plan, and I really appreciate the work that you've done. The concern I have about the item, and I know it's just the first step, I share Councilmember Horvath's concern that we incorporate all of the agencies and entities, public and private, that maintain some of our infrastructure. And I would add one other, and that is LAUSD, that does operate a school in the city of West Hollywood, and another one right on our borders. The one concern I have is that this really appears to be kind of a one-year snapshot of what we've done this year and what we expect next year. I hope that as we work on this in the upcoming year, we're really doing more forecasting, long-term forecasting of sort of 5 years, 10 years, what we anticipate. I think that would be helpful for us for planning purposes as well as for you. I've mentioned before that I think some of the improvements we made to the median were done without the council's vote on that, and I think that's an issue. I may be mistaken on that, but I think that's something that we do need to be mindful of. And then one minor point, and that is some of the improvements that we're making up on Sunset with painting sort of red bulb outs near curbs. I saw that being done the other day. I don't know if that's the final version of it, but some of that actually covers the crosswalk. And so if you're driving in the far right lane, you don't actually see the crosswalk because it's been painted over with red. So I don't think that was our intention, and maybe we need to go back and look at that because some drivers may not actually observe that there's a crosswalk approaching. So.
It's only a small portion of it because the idea was to create a bulb out, but without physical improvements such as pouring concrete. So we're painting a bulb out using striping.
Yeah, I don't want to get into that tonight and question whether that's something that council actually agreed to and whether it's going to be effective. But I will tell you that I have been up there, and if you're in the far right lane and there is traffic in the other 2 lanes and you're driving, you don't realize you're approaching a crosswalk because it has now been covered up with red paint. And if you're approaching, you may not even realize that there could be a pedestrian crossing in front of the cars that are in the through lanes. So I think that needs to be looked at because obviously I know you and we all want to make sure that we're doing everything to promote safety in the crosswalks.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Councilmember Meister?
Yeah, I would just wanted to mention that I received some calls about the red bulb outs and the red painted bulb outs. People don't really understand what's going on. So can you just explain what you're doing there and
First
how
of all,
long, and how long the test is?
yes, gladly. First of all, it's a pilot program, that's my understanding. It's spearheaded by the planning department. I reviewed the traffic engineering aspect of it, and we will definitely keep an eye on it over the course of the pilot test period. And if there are any tweaks needed, we'll make them as necessary.
Okay,
We'll definitely have long-range planning follow up on it. This was one of their projects. It's related to some of the activity that we had brought back to council for Sunset. The engineering folks are just really implementing the plans, but I'll have them send out an email once again clarifying what they're doing. However, I think the safety issues are something that we can have the traffic engineer take a look at right away.
Yeah, and the other concern that came up about that is that where people were able to make right-hand turns and not be blocking traffic, now they feel that they can't go into that red area, and so now they're going to be holding up traffic behind them because what was basically like a right turn lane is no longer there.
We will definitely monitor and keep an eye on it and see if there are any tweaks needed to be made in the near future, and we'll make them.
Thank you. Any other comments or response from either our facilities manager or city engineer?
Actually, Paul, when you bring back long-range planning, can you also review the council item and see if we actually approve doing this as a pilot project?
Definitely, sure.
Thank you.
Now it has been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please indicate with an aye. Any opposed with an nay? Matter passes unanimously. Thank you, Dimitri. Thank you, Helen.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you both. Thank you. Item 2J was tabled to a date indefinite as part of our approval of the agenda. That moves us to 2K, which is Councilmember Heilman's Arts and Cultural Affairs Commission.
Yes, unfortunately, my commissioner, Candace Burkim, who served, I think, for 7 or 8 years, she has had a child who's been sick quite frequently. So unfortunately, she's missed a number of meetings in the last year, enough that she got the notification from the city clerk that her position was vacated. I may appoint her again at some point in the future, but at this point, I think for her own health and for the health of her child, she needs to take a break. So I am going to not reappoint her tonight. I'll ask Yvonne to notice the vacancy and try to have somebody appointed within the next 60 days. So if you could do that, Yvonne, I'd appreciate it.
All right, thank you. No legislative items. We have one additional public comment. Steve Martin.
Steve Martin, West Hollywood. My husband will be upset if I come home too early, so it's all on you. We get lots of good news from West Hollywood, and Paul's announcement that the affordable housing at the AKA West Hollywood project is great news for the holidays. Most of those units were being held back. Now that the three of you voted to make sure that AKA West Hollywood is housing, we now have those people in affordable housing for the holidays, and that's just really wonderful. I usually don't advocate for junkets, but I think you all need to take a little junket and maybe take some of our arts and culture people or public facilities people with you and even have dinner, but please go over to Beverly Hills, go over to Beverly Drive and see their holiday displays, because it's really embarrassing. I mean, because we're the creative city, and our holiday decorations are at least 25 years old. They are the product of a recession, not the Great Recession, but the recession before, and it just doesn't look like we care. Now, I know John Heilman is probably the only person that remembers this, but for a long time we were remembered as the municipal Grinch that stole Christmas, because we did abolish Christmas as a holiday for the city back in 1985, but we did restore it, and I really think that we should be putting a substantial amount of money to really make our city look great for the holidays. We're a creative city. I know a lot of people on the east side would like to see poinsettias. I'm on Poinsettia Drive. It's part of our history. And, you know, I just think we can do better. And we know we can do better. Also, as a member of the, on the east side, I want to thank you guys for your attention to Fountain. We'll see how this improvement works, but we really appreciate the effort. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other council member comment? Councilmember Horvath.
Oh, the city actually doesn't recognize Christmas as an official holiday, so I just wanted to clarify that. And Councilmember D'Amico, or Mayor Pro Tem D'Amico, and I did bring an item forward to invest in holidays. We didn't quite get to 3. I think there are some concerns, First Amendment concerns, but I think you're right. Plenty of cities acknowledge the holidays in ways that are not religious or First Amendment infringement, and I certainly think that festive spirit should be welcome here in West Hollywood.
All right, thank you. City Manager Arevalo.
That anyone wants to go home tonight, but just real quickly on the holiday decorations, that will be part of our work program when we take over the lights, because we'll have a lot more flexibility on what we could put on them. So that is on our radar. Thank you.
All right, great. Councilmember Heilman.
I know we adjourned in memory of the victims of the fire. Did we also adjourn in memory of the victims of the shooting in Thousand Oaks?
We did not, but we can add those names, please.
Can we add that?
Yes, without
Thank you.
objection. Anything else? All right. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. We are adjourned to our annual Congress of Commissions and Boards, which will be on Wednesday, November 28th at 6 p.m. here at the council chambers.